12 o'clock on your Wednesday afternoon. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyrod and Terry Ford along with you here on the game. As we cross over the threshold into the afternoon on Wednesday, of course, that means we are officially halfway through the week and that much closer to another South Carolina football game as they head on the road to an unfamiliar venue with Oklahoma coming up this weekend as Shane Beamer returns to his own stomping grounds, place that he spent several years with Lincoln Riley as the special teams coordinator and I believe tight ends coach as well when he was there at Oklahoma. As South Carolina looks to get their feet back under them after these past couple of weeks. And Chris and I were talking about this a little bit at the end of the takeover hour there. I have a decent sense of optimism with this team, which for a lot of people is a weird thing to say when you're talking about being 3-3, right? And this is a team that's made a lot of mistakes this year. They have shot themselves in the foot many, many times over. And until you see those mistakes get corrected, you're not going to believe they're going to be able to do it consistently. That being said, I think the upside of this team is one that should, keyword should, be able to go on the road this weekend in Oklahoma and win this game. This is an Oklahoma team that's scuffling. They are in, we have our own struggles on offense here at South Carolina, but they are in a very bad way out there in Oklahoma. When it talk about receiver injuries, talking about figuring out what to do at quarterback, which they're committed to Michael Hawkins at this point in time, and he'll start once again this weekend against South Carolina, but there's not a lot of belief in him right now that he's going to suddenly go out there and spin the rock for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, because you haven't seen it up to this point this year. Now, it does seem that the belief around the program is that he is the future and that they are committed to him for the long haul, at least for the time being, because they think his upside potential is there. Very much akin to what we have here at South Carolina. Now, I think Lenore Sellers is a lot farther ahead of where Michael Hawkins is at this point in time, but he's still making mistakes, and he's still doing things that a quarterback that's only started, 5 games to this point in his career would be expected to make. But I think that's one area this weekend that Carolina does have an advantage. Not a huge advantage, but if you're asking me to compare quarterbacks, I think Lenore Sellers is right now better than Michael Hawkins. Now, you can ask me that question in 2 years, assuming Michael Hawkins continues to start for Oklahoma. Answer might be different. But right now, and again, it's not a huge gap, I think South Carolina does have that advantage, as well as a few other areas on offense compared to what Oklahoma has, which I think, considering the fact that both these defenses are good, is going to be the deciding factor this weekend.
Yeah, look, South Carolina, if you look at it, better running game, better running back. Offensive line is better. All of Oklahoma's receivers are hurt. So right now, South Carolina more healthy at wide receiver than Oklahoma. I know we sit, Tyler, and talk about all the problems the Gamecocks have on the offensive side of the ball, but you can move that up many percentage points, and Oklahoma has more problems than South Carolina.
And that's the funny thing between these teams, and I brought this up to Chris in the last hour. Oklahoma is 4-2. Oklahoma was in the top 25 a week ago. Theoretically speaking, they could run the table and still be in the college football playoff. I don't think that's going to happen,
right.
But I say that to say all their goals are still ahead of them. South Carolina, 3-3 as of right now. And we had the hypothetical debate at the end of the last hour. Not that we believe it, but if Carolina ran the table, I don't even know if that's enough to get you in the college football playoff. So that being said, on paper, it seems like Oklahoma's in a better place, but if you poll their fan base, they're probably feeling worse than South Carolina is right now.
Well, look at Oklahoma's schedule, what they've played so far. Their one win they can hang their hat on is they went to the Plains and beat Auburn, and it really was on a pick 6. Again, Auburn gave Oklahoma the ball.
Auburn beat themselves.
Yes. If you don't give Oklahoma the ball, they're going to have a really tough time beating a decent to good football team.
By the way, they hadn't turned them over the entire game up to that point.
And remember, Auburn was a turnover machine before that game.
I mean, Peyton Thorne was handing out footballs like Oprah hands out gifts on her show.
Right. I mean, and they went that whole game clean, and then Peyton Thorne throws the awful pick 6 at the end. If Auburn does not give Oklahoma the ball in that spot, Auburn wins the game, and Oklahoma's 3-3.
Right.
Point being is Oklahoma needs you to help them. You can't help them Saturday. If you don't turn it over and don't have 15 penalties, you have a really good shot of walking out of there with a win. They are struggling on offense. They are, and our guy Preston went nuclear this morning about Oklahoma. But he wasn't wrong. We talked about it Monday. They are the worst offense in the SEC.
Yeah.
By every metric, almost. They're the worst offense in the SEC.
Like, worse than the SEC, but, like, nationally, they are towards the bottom in almost every major category.
Yeah, like 126th, 124th, 128th. I mean, we're talking about total yards, rushing yards, passing yards, third down conversions. If you just look at the SEC stats, offensively, they're the worst all over the place. Defensively, we're talking about how great their defense is, right? Defensively, 11th in total defense yards per game. They're below average in rushing defense and passing defense.
They're opportunistic is what they are on defense.
What they do is they force turnovers, they sack you, and they're above average in red zone defense. That's it.
Yep.
And the only good thing about their offense, they're above average in red zone offense. So they've been good in the red areas.
I would imagine.
They just don't get there.
I would say imagine they're taking the ball away in the red area, which is probably what's contributing to that number. But, yeah, I mean, against the pass, I'm just looking at this from a national standpoint. They're 77th.
Right.
You can move the ball in the air against them.
You can move the ball on them. They just stiffen up when you get in their red zone, and they've been forcing teams to kick field goals or they're getting turnovers.
One of my favorite cliches in football is bend but don't break on defense, which basically means we'll let you move it as much as you want between the 20s, but once you get in the red area, then we're going to clamp down, which, like, that still means you're letting teams move the ball quite a bit. But, hey, if you're keeping them out of the end zone, that's working. And they're 27th in the nation in total defense with points allowed, allowing under 20 so far this year.
Because, again, once you get in their red area, they're either holding you to a field goal or they're forcing a turnover.
Right.
And that's who they are, or they're sacking you and pushing you behind the chains.
Right, which we've seen a couple times this year.
That's the one thing here. Despite the fact I believe that South Carolina is a better squad, the Achilles heels of South Carolina are the few things that Oklahoma does well.
Right.
South Carolina gives up sacks. South Carolina is very giving with the football. If you do that stuff, you lose. You're going to lose Saturday if you turn it over. Because that's what they live on. They lead the SEC in turnover margin, by the way.
Right.
You cannot be giving. It's not the holiday season. Do not give them turnovers and opportunities because their offense can't move the ball. Their offense is not going to beat you with explosives. They're not going to beat you with sustained drives. They don't do it.
I put out the number this morning. There's no reason they should score more than 14 points against you on Saturday.
Legit, if you don't turn the ball over, they're going to have a tough time scoring against you.
Yeah.
They just did, and I'm not making it up. If you get bored, crack open the internet. Take a look at their offense. First of all, it's going to make your eyes burn. And they just really struggle. They take advantage of when you screw up. If you don't screw up, they're going to have a difficult time with you. And that's reality with Oklahoma right now. What are they going to be moving forward? I don't know. Their offensive line, I think there's 4 transfer portal guys that start for Oklahoma. Their offensive line, I was sitting there looking at the grades. That offensive line, not good. Struggle in pass protection, struggle even worse in run blocking.
Well, they are suffering from something that has been so hit or miss in this transfer portal era of rebuilding your offensive line. They rebuilt from center over to the right, center, right guard, right tackle, all brand new to this team. And like we've seen with Colorado these past couple years under Deion, sometimes that does not work. It is not working right now for Oklahoma.
No, not at all. And right now, and this will sound familiar to a Gamecock fan, right now the most pressures Oklahoma gives up are by their tackles. Guess what South Carolina has really good defensively on the edge?
Guys coming off the edge.
Yes. So that's a big matchup. We'll talk more about that, obviously, as the week goes on. Oklahoma's offensive line is struggling. Their receivers are hurt. They can't run the ball. Their quarterback position is in disarray. South Carolina has the better offense. How many times have we said that this year?
Not many.
They have the better offense. Defensively, again, South Carolina, South Carolina forces turnovers too. Maybe not to the extent of Oklahoma, but South Carolina forces turnovers as well. I think South Carolina's fundamental defense is better than Oklahoma's. I think they get to the quarterback more than the Sooners. If you look at grades, I think Oklahoma has more sacks.
Yeah, so Oklahoma, let's see here, on defense, they have 19 on the season, which is 10th in the nation. Carolina has actually they're tied. They're tied with 19 total sacks.
So they both
together.
get the same amount of sacks. I think South Carolina, if you look at grades on Pro Football Focus, South Carolina is teetering between second and third in the country in pass rush grades.
Yeah.
So overall, they might be a tick better consistently getting pressure on quarterbacks. I think South Carolina's defense, first of all, I think they give up less total yards. Red zone, I don't know if they're as good as Oklahoma in the red zone.
So in red zone allowed, Carolina's defense is allowing 78% as far as total scores. Oklahoma is actually better at 75%. So they're a little bit better in red zone defense, but as far as overall,
I think
on
South
all
Carolina
levels,
overall better.
Carolina is better at pass defense. They're better at run defense, and they're not as low in scoring defense, but they are low in total defense.
So that's the deal. Preventing yardage, South Carolina's better. They get after the quarterback a little bit better. They don't force as many turnovers, and red zone wise, Oklahoma's better. I think overall South Carolina's a tick better on defense, but I think I can't believe I'm saying this after what we've seen this year, they are considerably better on offense. We've seen South Carolina move the ball.
I don't know if considerably.
I think they're
is the word
considerably
that I would use.
better.
I definitely think they have the offensive advantage. Again, both these offensive lines are bad. Like Lenore Sellers is going to be under heat the entire game from what we assume coming up on Saturday. I do think from a skill standpoint, talk about Rocket Sanders, and again, and Oklahoma's entire wide receiver room is banged up. So while South Carolina's wide receiver room isn't setting the world on fire, I think you do have the advantage there as well.
With the combination of beat-up wide receivers, terrible offensive line, and a even more raw quarterback, I will put it in a considerably better spot.
Okay,
because
I'm not comfortable with saying considerably, but I do say it's better.
Well, you're not comfortable because you've watched the South Carolina offense. Go watch the Oklahoma offense on tape.
Well, I had Red River on the second screen on Saturday, and every time I looked, I kind of cringed anytime they did anything because it's pretty ugly.
It's rough. I mean, they are just, and that's the thing. If their wide receivers were healthy, I wouldn't say considerably.
Yeah.
But their wide receivers are so beat up. Their best wide receiver, the kid Burks, is out.
Well, it sounds like he's going to try and drag himself off the injury table to play. We're going to get the injury report coming up tonight. But and look, even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. So I don't know how much that's going to help.
And here's the other part: to get him the ball, your quarterback has to be able to actually stand up and throw it.
That is part of it as well. Yeah.
And there's a lot going on there that makes me scratch my head. I thought they had a quick hook on Jackson Arnold. For the guy you basically wave by to Dylan Gabriel for, and you can say whatever you want in public, you felt so good about Jackson Arnold, you really didn't chase Dylan Gabriel real hard when he was driving his car away.
Didn't seem that. You did not beg him on your hands and knees, tears in your eyes, please don't go, please don't go.
And after what? After the Tennessee game, you were done with Jackson Arnold.
Yeah. And it is, and we can get to this on the other side, there is a lot of conversation around this quarterback room that is interesting about not only this season, but the future of this program.
And let's get to that next. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We are hanging out here up until 3 here on The Game. The Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. We've been talking about the Oklahoma offense. We're going to zero in on the quarterback here in just a minute, the quarterback situation they have. Just I'll give you a little reminder that Carolina calls tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Todd Ellis and Shane Beamer. They'll roll for an hour. Shane will obviously start talking more and more about Oklahoma and less about Alabama. That is coming up tomorrow night at 6 right here on The Game in Columbia and our affiliate 103 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
You can listen to Spencer Rattler with Saints on Thursday Night Football.
That's right. You'll hear that. 7:30. Our coverage starts right here on The Game in Columbia at 107.5. All right. So Oklahoma has a quarterback issue. All the issues they have on offense, they have a quarterback issue as well. Here is Brent Venables, the head coach at Oklahoma, talking about his quarterback room.
Yeah, I love what we have in the quarterback room. Incredibly talented group, inexperienced group with, again, the first two guys that you mentioned there. But they got great talent, great futures, and we need to be able to play winning football, put them in position to, and help them be successful. And but you completely and totally believe in them, and I trust them. And I believe that, again, they got their head down. They have humility. They got work ethic. They got great leadership qualities, all the things that you want, arm talent. Both of them are, to me, the total package. And all their best football still in front of them.
Okay, this goes in the what are you going to say department. What are you going to say?
Yeah, you're not going to throw anybody under the bus. You're going to have confidence in every room on that team, especially when you're talking about a quarterback that, yes, from the outside, we all know it's kind of a mess right now, but as the head coach, you're supposed to say have utmost confidence in all the guys in the room, and they're going to get better and improve and blah, 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 all that stuff.
Right, exactly. Blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. And, let's take a quick examination of this. All right, let's be real about the quarterback room.
Okay.
Let's move the fertilizer aside. You let Dillon Gabriel leave because you banked on you didn't try to keep Dillon Gabriel might have left anyway. You just didn't really try hard to keep Dillon Gabriel. That's the perception, right? Because it would have been out there, Oklahoma's doing everything they can to hold on to Dillon Gabriel, but he's just leaving because Jeff Lebby's gone, right?
Yeah, that's part of it, so to speak.
All right, but my thought is if you really opened up the old NIL war chest, and I'm sure Oklahoma has a decent NIL war chest, and said, how much are you getting offered at Oregon? Well, how about we offer you this? If
you really wanted to find a way, I think you could have found it. Based on what we know about the fan base and what we believe that NIL is like, they could have found a way if they really wanted to. But that's the dilemma a lot of these programs face is, okay, you come to a crossroads. Do we try and get one more good year out of this guy that's experienced and has proven himself to this point? Or do we go ahead and make the switch with this guy that theoretically could be our future for the next 3 to 4 years? They chose the latter option, and unfortunately for them, at least through the first 3 games, it didn't work. Well, did they give it a chance to work? That's another fair question. And with Dillon Gabriel last year, and that offense, first of all, was really good. You won 10 games. Your defense was better than the year before. You had a lot of things trending in the right direction, correct? Right. But Dillon Gabriel left, and because you were ready to hand it off to Jackson Arnold, because to what you said, if you bring Dillon Gabriel back for another year, there's a good shot Jackson Arnold transfers. Probably, because he was already commanding probably quite a bit from the NIL landscape. And, for those people that do pay that money, it's like, okay, we're not going to keep paying for a backup. We need to see this guy play. And Jackson Arnold was a high-level 5-star quarterback recruit out of Denton, Texas. Everything about him up to the point of starting for Oklahoma told you he was going to be great. The problem that we run into a lot is when they actually do play, sometimes they're not always that guy. So he played the bowl game, did some good things, did some bad things, like throw the ball to the other team. But so you're moving forward with Jackson Arnold. He's your guy. And you figure, okay, he got experience in the bowl game. Things are going to be better. He's only thrown 3 interceptions. There's 7 touchdown passes. Now, again, 3 picks in 4 games. You don't want to continue down that road, but you had 7 touchdown passes. If you look at these games,
They didn't really ask him to throw the ball a ton. Offensive line's got problems. He didn't throw for over 174 yards. Got benched in the Tennessee game.
Yep.
But again, and I'm not like, I don't want to sound like my last name is Arnold, but here's a guy who's playing behind a brand new offensive line, who has an injury-depleted receiver room, has no running game, and by the way, he's running a new offense because Jeff Lebby left, and Luttrell, the dude that came in, the former head coach at North Texas, runs a different offense.
Yeah.
And by the way, Brent Venables didn't want to run Lebby's offense anymore. So, new offense. Kid hasn't started in a bowl game, and by the way, they were running a different offense when he played the bowl game, running Lebby's offense.
Right.
Brand new offensive line, injuries at wide receiver, no running game. What the hell do you want? Not to be mean. So you bench him in the Tennessee game because he was struggling against Tennessee. He absolutely was struggling against Tennessee. But the whole offense was struggling. You bench him and you bring in a true freshman to play. And to be honest, he struggled. He's mobile. He's more mobile than Jackson Arnold. And so far this year, he hasn't thrown an interception. He's only thrown one touchdown pass. But Reddy Arnold was sacked 10 times. Michael Hawkins has been sacked 9. He's completed completion percentage a little bit higher. But what you've done is you benched your 5-star kid. And to the point that we're going to get to that Tyler talked about earlier today, is you benched your 5-star kid for your 4-star kid. And if you don't go back to your 5-star kid, by the way, what you were going to run into coming into the year, if you would have kept Dillon Gabriel, you're going to get at the end of the year, Jackson Arnold's going to transfer.
Yeah, and like I said, I listened to the OU Insider podcast, which is a couple guys that cover the team for Rivals.com, and it seems to be there's the belief that the Jackson Arnold ship has sailed. Like, there's no repairing that relationship. He is going to transfer at the end of the year. So now you're looking at this and saying, okay, now I got Michael Hawkins. Now he is our potential future. We got to now go with the growing pains through him, which begs the question of why didn't you do that with Jackson Arnold? But nevertheless, if you have damaged that relationship beyond repair, what's done is done. Now you got to look at Michael Hawkins and say, okay, we just got to hope he's going to develop and get better now. We're going to stick with him instead.
So basically, within 4 games, you want to count the bowl game 5, but to me, it's a different offense. It's a different team on offense. You made an astute assumption a month into the season that your 5-star quarterback that you were handing the keys over to, that you let Dillon Gabriel walk for, now is not your guy. Because you know if you bench him and you run with Michael Hawkins, Arnold's gone.
Well, and here's the thing. If Arnold's played these past 3 games and Hawkins hasn't, does it really look all that different? Because the numbers tell me it doesn't.
No, and that's what there's a bigger problem here. You've got a defensive coach as your head coach, and that can work. No one says it doesn't work, but how much is Brent Venables involved in all this? How much is he? The smart defensive coordinators do this. I'm the defensive coordinator and the CEO. Offensive coordinator, you're the head coach of the offense. I mean, obviously you answer to me, but you're the head coach of the offense. Is Brent Venables really doing that at Oklahoma? Because this is a whole different football team than you saw last year.
Yeah.
Now Lebby's gone as the offensive coordinator. You brought in Luttrell. You wanted to change the offense. You have. Now it stinks. Congratulations. And now you're already cycling through quarterbacks.
You're telling me Brent Venables is stubborn as a head coach? Wonder where he learned that from.
Yeah, I don't know. But I just wonder, is there a bigger problem? Because, look, in this world today, the blueprint of 1977 is gone. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Look, last year, give Brent Venables credit. They won 10 games. But it's also like it's almost like he's going away from what worked for him last year to truly put my stamp on what I want to do on this football team. Good luck, man. We'll see. We shall see. By the way, we'll have Gamecocks game day starting at 7:30 from Command Control here in the studios. Tyler Head, myself, and Captain Dave. Kickoff is at 12:30 in Norman, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. You can hear it right here on the Game in Columbia and our sister station 107.5. 107.5. That game is us. 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach. in case you just woke up, we'll give you a little heads up what's going on in the world of sports. That's next on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the Game. What we're talking about.
Sends one high and deep to center field. Did he get it? Back on it is Thomas. He's at the wall. He got it. It's a 2-run home run. Aaron Judge finally connects his first home run of this postseason. And he makes it 6-2 Yankees.
That's what we're talking about. Stuff that happened if you just woke up. We call it if you just woke up here on the game. Last night, Yankees beat the Guardians 6-3. New York's up 2-0 in the American League Championship Series. Both games were at Yankee Stadium. So they held serve at home. Mm-hmm. So obviously Game 3 is quite important to the Cleveland Indians. It's a must-win or it's over. The only time a team has blown a 3-0 lead is, the Yankees. To the Red Sox.
Of course, Jack is a resident Yankee fan here, and this morning we were talking about this game. I said, Yankees look like they're in a pretty good spot to go to the World Series, and he just immediately plugged his ears and said, I don't want to hear it. I've seen this happen too many times before.
Mm-hmm. Hey, our buddy Leo upstairs on B106 is also a massive Yankee fan. And Yankee fans are funny because as successful as that franchise has been, the fact they haven't won a World Series since 2009, those people think it's the end of the world.
You would think they're the ones that had the curse, not the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah. It's like the curse of A-Rod. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So Yankee fans always, if you say, hey, man, you're 2 away, you go, yeah, that's no guarantee.
That's 2 games they could lose.
Right. Did you see that base running last night? By the way, John Sterling had the greatest. I wish I would have had you pull this because someone had sent it to me. John Sterling, the Yankees twice got thrown out on the bases and just ridiculously awful base running. John Sterling goes, yep, that's the Yankees. They run the bases like they're drunk. And the base running was atrocious. Garrett Cole wasn't very good last night, but the Yankees won 6-3 because they hit home runs. Aaron Judge hit his first, but the more important thing for Cleveland is Jose Ramirez went yard in the 9th inning. The Cleveland offense revolves around Ramirez, and they got to get Ramirez going. Cleveland has the best bullpen in baseball. If they can get enough out of their starters, they got nothing last night out of their starter. If Cleveland get enough out of their starter to go to that bullpen, which is a lockdown pen, and Ramirez can get hot, Indians have a chance. But they got to win Game 3. Yes. Guards. I call them Indians again.
It's interchangeable. We all do it.
Again, I'm not trying. Look, I don't care about changing your name, but Guardians?
Yeah.
Because of a bridge? Because what's it, a gargoyle on a bridge or something stupid? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they wanted to keep the suffix the same, so it sounded kind of similar. But, I don't think it's as bad as Commanders. Commanders is pretty
Commanders is
bad.
Awful.
I actually enjoyed Washington football team, to be honest with you.
I'd go back to Washington football team over Guardians.
It's just what are we doing? And plus, people call them the commies. It just, it's its own joke.
Yeah, what was it, Commandos?
Yeah, exactly.
Which to me is my favorite way to do it.
They haven't looked like that this year, so give them that credit for that.
So, look, can Cleveland still win the series? Sure. Because all the Yankees did was hold serve at home. Cleveland holds serve at home. Remember, what they always say, a series is not a series till you lose a home game.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, obviously, the Guardians have to win Game 3. But last night they get beat. Dodgers and Mets tonight, Game 3, I believe, is in New York.
Yes.
They split the 2 at Chavez Ravine in L.A. Dodgers pitching is a problem. They got injury issues, and they just. I would not be surprised if the Mets win the series.
To be honest with you, I can't enjoy this at all. I can't. There's no win for me in this. I can't do it.
In this, for me, because again, where I'm from, there is a hate for all New York teams, especially the Mets.
Sure.
Because of my dad's generation saw the Orioles choke in 1969, which is one of the iconic choke jobs of all time in baseball.
Right.
So the Mets are automatically hated in Baltimore by old school folks. I don't do the hate thing anymore. I hate you if you're in line in front of me. I'm in a hurry at the grocery store and you have 70 cans of dog food and say I've got one item, and you're blogging up the express line. I hate you at that moment. I don't hate teams. But I don't. Do I want to see the Mets in the World Series? Not really. And my major reason, I don't want a Subway Series. I don't care.
Yeah.
I truly don't care about Mets versus Yankees.
Major League Baseball wants that, and they want that.
No, because the last time they had one, the ratings sucked because nobody outside of New York cared. Everybody thought that was going to be a ratings bonanza. No, the ratings were bad because outside of New York City, most of this country went, oh, New York against New York. Obnoxious versus obnoxious.
True.
No, thank you.
That's a good point. I guess Dodgers, Yankees is the most
Yankees is a sweet
appealing
spot.
that they could get.
No one wants the Guardians in the baseball offices.
Well, because the Mets, we do still have the New York angle to it, so there's interest from that. But yeah, Mets, Guardians, I don't think that does not move the needle because the Dodgers and the Yankees are just definitive brands across all of the sport. Talked about it yesterday. Obviously, the Yankees are a worldwide brand that no other team in baseball, maybe the Red Sox, comes close to touching, and the Dodgers are routinely one of the best teams in baseball year in, year out. But yeah, the Mets and the Guardians, that just feels like last year's World Series, kind of underwhelming from a brand standpoint.
Yes. Yes. Well, last year, the World Series last year did better ratings-wise than you would think with what you have with Diamondbacks Rangers, but still, no offense to Cleveland. If Cleveland's in the World Series, the Major League Baseball offices are like, oh.
But at least with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, most people, I don't know many people that hate either one of those teams outside of people within the division. You could watch that with the enjoyment of, hey, I'm just here to have a good time.
Curiosity,
Watching this, a lot of people hate the Yankees because, well, they're the Yankees. And again, people like myself, have a hate for the Dodgers and the Mets. So it's I don't want to see any of these teams win.
It's an interesting one that the dynamic, if you're Major League Baseball, you want Yankees, Dodgers. That's what you want. Anything else is okay. Right now you have the two biggest markets in the country still in the baseball playoffs. That's what Major League Baseball cares about. And all the ratings numbers are up, by the way, on the baseball playoffs.
Sure.
So that's what's going on in MLB. You flip over to the NFL. You had two trades yesterday that we talked about a little bit. Davante Adams going from the Vegas Raiders to the Jets. By the way, and I didn't see this till after the show. You know that Aaron Rodgers is on Pat McAfee.
Yeah, I saw what happened.
And Davante Adams is at Aaron Rodgers' house.
Sleep over at his house the night before?
He did a little sleepover.
And you're telling me that Aaron Rodgers is not in control of things there in New York?
Well, that's the first thing everybody says. Well, obviously Aaron Rodgers is the GM. Davante Adams is bunking at his house. So, yeah, look. How much better does this make the Jets? It makes them better because even at 31 years old, Davante Adams is still a good wide receiver.
Yeah.
He was just stuck in a bad spot in Vegas. What are the Raiders doing? Who knows? No one knows. The Raiders don't know what they're doing. Let's rebuild again. Let's retool again. Hey, we'll get a new head coach at the end of the year. How about a new GM in here? Until you get a new owner with a better haircut, this is what you get. And it's just sad. But the Raiders, and again, of course, they ripped the heart out of the fans in the Bay Area again by moving. They're just a bad franchise owned by a bad owner. He's not a mean guy. He's just a bad owner.
Right.
They say he's a decent human being. He's just terrible at owning the football team.
Would he threaten a local radio host if they asked him the wrong question?
No, he wouldn't. Because he wouldn't be. Not even that goober would go on radio show, have his own radio show like Jerry. So the Raiders are a mess. They're going to just continue to be a mess. And Davante Adams is popping champagne on his way out of town. And if you're Max Crosby, they're a very good edge pass rusher. You go, hey, can you trade me too, please?
Who was more thrilled, him or Amari Cooper yesterday when they got the news?
They could have. They both, put it this way, a lot of champagne was guzzled at both houses.
I imagine Amari Cooper has been praying for a long time, please get me out of Cleveland.
You know what's interesting? If you look at I look at the wide receiver score tracker, wide receiver tracker thing on ESPN, it tells you about wide receivers, how they get open, they catch the football, they get yak yards and stuff like that. There are 93 receivers graded in the ESPN wide receiver chart. Guess who's 93rd?
Amari Cooper. Now, Jerry Jeudy, his running mate at wide receiver, is rated 80th. Yeah, we're going real quick if that was just the environment or not.
Exactly. So is the bigger picture the awful quarterback play that led to the awfulness at wide receiver? We're going to find out because Amari Cooper is going to go to be the new Stephon Diggs in the Bills offense, which they need. They were talking about, in the Raven game, the Ravens defensively were just cover zero. Mm-hmm. They had zero respect for the Bills wide receivers. So now you get a guy, and Amari Cooper the last 2 years, Tyler, over 70 catches, over 1,000 yards. So we're going to find out about Amari Cooper. Has he hit the 30-year-old wall? We're going to find out. So just a little bit more to yap about what happened with the wide receiver trade yesterday. In theory, the Bills and Jets should be better on offense. We will find out in the Browns and the Raiders. All right, halftime show. We'll get to the Firehouse subtext, the hour 803-404-6100. We're hanging out here at Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the Game. Time for our Firehouse subtext, the hour on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the Game in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, 107.5 The Game app. our YouTube channel. You can also check us out at Game TV Radio. All right, what you got, man?
Billy from Blythewood says, I'm not interested in seeing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, the Lakers in the NBA Finals, or the Yankees in the World Series. I would love to see Cleveland and the Mets.
Oh, look, there are people that personally would love to see anybody but the big market teams. And look, I love underdogs, man. I do. I'm a huge fan of underdogs in general. But here's the thing. If you look at our entire sports population, right, the people that will watch it or have some type of interest, most of them want to see the big brands. Mm-hmm. The best one for them is David and Goliath, right? That's really the best in a lot of ways. So let's say the Indians were in the National League, and you could get Indians. I did it again. Guardians, Yankees, and you had the Guardians as that cute, plucky underdog coached by Emilio Estevez coming out of the National League against the big behemoth Yankee machine. That'd be fun. But that's not the way it's going to work. You're going to get Market 1 or Market 2 out of the National League. The Dodgers, who again are the Dodgers, and the Mets, who most people even forget are in New York. Let's just be real. The Mets every now and then pop up, and like this year, for an example, right? The Mets will be semi-competitive. Remember, for a while there, they were really good at choking in September and October. And now this year, all of a sudden, here they are again. Now, conventional wisdom says, even if they get to the World Series, and who knows if they win or lose, but then they'll go away for another 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they might pop up on our radar again. Because that's who the Mets are. There's no consistency, really. When they won in 86, they were built to be really good. Gooden was young. Strawberry was young. They had a young core of players. They had a Hall of Fame manager in Davey Johnson, excellent GM in Frank Cashin. You said that team is built to win multiple World Series. So how many did they win after 86?
None.
None. I don't think they didn't get the World Series. They got the one NLCS after that, and I believe got beat by the Dodgers. So I think 88, when the Dodgers when they beat the A's, and Orel Hershiser was ridiculous, I think they beat the Mets in the National League Championship Series. But anyway, my point is the Mets can never sustain. They're ready. They can't have nice things because they break them. That team was broken because Strawberry and Gooden, I don't know, they had this snorting problem. Most of the team, for some reason, again, it was the 80s. But the Mets just fell apart quick. And then they, X amount of years ago, didn't they lose to the Royals in the World Series?
I can't remember.
I think the Royals beat the Mets. And then they go away again for a while. And then they pop back up like now, and then they'll go away again at some point. And there's just no consistency with the Mets. And the Yankees, we think the Yankees win every year. They don't. They haven't won a World Series since 09. Haven't been to the World Series since 09. And do we even count the Dodgers COVID World Series? I mean, we have to, but it was a COVID World Series.
I really don't count many championships in the COVID bubble.
It's just, it was very weird. But that's the only time the Dodgers have won one, was it since
80,
the late 80s?
88,
at 88,
right?
when they upset
Gibson
Oakland.
home run.
The Gibson home run off of Eckersley. So we think these big market teams are just always, no, not really. I mean, Cubs won in 16.
Yep.
To break that stupid goat ruined everything for years.
And then Steve Bartman made it worse.
Poor guy. I have never.
I think they sent him a ring, didn't they?
So bad. I think they did, and they should have. What was done to that man is criminal. I mean,
everybody looks for a scapegoat.
Yeah, and that guy. Anyway, didn't play shortstop, didn't pitch, didn't hit, but it was his fault that they choked against the Marlins.
Yeah, the guy sitting in the front row with headphones on.
Yeah. The dorky little dude who reached up for, by the way, the ball was in foul ground. He didn't jump on the field, Tyler, and knock over the third baseman. The ball went into the stands. But this is what you do when you stink and you choke. You got to find something. So let's blame the dorky dude sitting in the box seats, by the way, with his big old early 2000s headphones on and his little stupid radio. It's his fault that we choked against the Marlins. He had to change his address.
Oh, I bet.
The things that were done to that poor guy.
He needed a food. I know we joke about it. He needed a food taster.
Absolutely he did. And the fact is that nobody stood up for him. It was awful. There's a 30 for 30 about it if you've ever seen it. It makes you never want to see the Cubs win ever after what happened to that poor guy. Thank you for the text, like always, 803-404-6100. Back to the Gamecocks. Football. Some Shane Beamer comments from yesterday's presser. We'll jump into that next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. Thanks for hanging out with us on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game as we do football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Oh, speaking of football, Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham announcing that starting quarterback Sam Leavitt will not start against Cincinnati. He was injured against Utah.
Ooh.
Guess who gets the start? Oh, those Cincinnati DBs, you better practice on the old jugs machine. You can get a lot of balls thrown to you. Jeff Sims.
Wait, he's still playing?
Yes. Jeff Sims, former Nebraska, former Georgia Tech quarterback, will get the start for Arizona State.
How long has he been in college?
About 10 years. By the way, Arizona State is the feel-good story of the Big 12.
They really are. Look, the Big 12 as a whole is wide open. Arizona State, BYU, I don't know which way this conference is going to go. Technically speaking, Colorado still has a shot at it being in the mix there despite losing to Kansas State this past weekend. I had Utah as my favorite coming into the year, but I knew Cam Rising was going to get hurt, and they are a different team without Cam Rising. He got hurt. He's out for the season. He's getting ready for his 45th year of college football next year. Do you realize Cam Rising came in the same class as Trevor Lawrence in 2018?
How crazy is that?
That's insane.
And Trevor Lawrence, how many years now is Trevor Lawrence? Third year in the NFL? 1 year with Urban and 2 years with Peterson. This is the year 3 with Peterson.
That's insane.
4 years, his 4th season. And Cam Rising is going to, because remember, Cam Rising missed another game, so he's had under 4 games this year.
Yeah.
He might be able to go get a medical red shirt for year 12.
By the way, Jeff Sims, his freshman year at Georgia Tech was 2020. Good Lord.
Yes. So Jeff Sims will get the start for Arizona State. So Cincinnati defensive backs, get ready, baby. Get ready. All right, so back to South Carolina, taking on Oklahoma in Norman. 7:30, we get going with Gamecocks game day here from the Command Center at the studios here at 107.5 The Game with our local pregame show. We go to a little bit before 9:30, then the SEC report, then we'll switch over to our network pregame show, and that will be here in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach at 100.3 The Game. Kickoff is 12:30, South Carolina, Oklahoma. Shane Beamer talking to the media yesterday like he does every Tuesday. Let's get to cut 11 first, Tyler. Shane talking about the positives you can take from your 2 close losses to 2 ranked teams. You lost 2 games by a combined total of 5 points, LSU and Alabama. Here's Shane talking about those, what you can get from losses.
Yeah, just that. I think whether it's, you can learn from every loss and you can learn from every win. And I'm sure people get mad at me because we've had losses and I find the positives in them instead of going in there and just going scorched earth on people after losses. And there's a time and place for that, don't get me wrong. But you build up on a lot of the positives and the progress that you made. But this group, Jordan, is an older, mature group where I don't have to tell them that. Like they hurt, they're disappointed, they're not into moral victories. And, give LSU and Alabama, both credit, but, a lot of our guys realize that we could easily be sitting here 5-1 right now if we just finish games better. And there's great hurt and disappointment that we haven't been able to do that, but no one's happy about being 3-3. And that's what I told our players. Like last week, everybody thought we stunk. And this week, it's a bunch of pats on the back about how hard you played. And, man, you almost had them. And what a response and all that as well. And last week, we didn't listen to it. This week, we don't need to be listening to it. We need to do everything in our power to find a way to win a game this Saturday as well.
We talked about this on Monday with the ideas like we heard Mazio Bennett post-game about we don't want to feel like this anymore. We got to stop feeling like this. We're tired of feeling like this. We got to stop coming to this locker room feeling the way we are after basically losing a game we should have won. We were like, man, I love it. And I even was kind of half kidding, but, Shane, just come out and say, you know what, we're bleeped off. And we're tired of coming up really close and falling short and then pull the Tim Tebow. Not going to happen anymore. We're sick of it.
Give the speech.
Just, but that's just, look, that's not Shane, and it's okay. The only time we've seen Shane truly fired up was about Dow Loggins.
Yeah, oddly enough, which let's hope that doesn't age poorly.
Yeah, let's hope not. But Shane he looks at the positive stuff and all this, and he goes for the glass half full stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's nothing wrong with coaching and teaching and developing toward positivity. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
It's not, but it does get to a point, as we kind of talked about the other day, where you just develop a reputation, right? And like I said, I think it was yesterday, they could ride the success of those 2 wins against Tennessee and Clemson for a while, and that carried over until most of last year, I would say. But now we look at, after losing Alabama over the weekend, you're 0-9 against ranked opponents since then. Like, you can't keep going back to that well and saying, well, hey, we did this 2 years ago, because you haven't shown anything like that since then. Yeah, you've come close, including the two out of 3 games you lost this year. We're right there, and if 1 or 2 things go differently, but if you continue to do the same thing, you develop the reputation of the team that just can't finish against better teams.
You've lost 9 straight?
9 straight against ranked
opponents since that Clemson win. Okay, let me give you the other side of the coin, because we're going down that whole everybody should be frustrated and everybody should be tired of coming up short, and somebody break something, right? I mean, we're just looking at that one side of frustration, and do you need that to get over the top? Do you need to get a little Because we've talked about that. But let's take this other focus. We hear coaches all today say what? Next game, next practice, next film session, next. We don't look back. We learn, and we move forward, right?
Right.
We go to the next one. The next one is the next one. Then we stack the next one to the next one. So if you're truly coaching like that, and that's the way you look upon, and a lot of them do it today, then that takes away what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
You follow where I'm going here. You in the car? You driving with me? You good?
Yeah.
Is the idea okay? No, because I'm going to the next one. And the next one is a separate entity upon itself that has nothing to do with the last one. We go to the next one. And then we go to the next one. And then we go to the next one. Next practice, next film session, next everything. It's almost a robotic way to go about your business. And a lot of coaches do this today. They don't bring that emotion into it or that.
Sure.
Because it's all about, remember, that the F word today is the focus of the next thing.
It's the cliche of the one-game season, where every single week you're focused on that one game, going 1-0, and all that stuff that we hear from coaches each and every week.
And we hear it a lot today, right? Yeah. That's really become the catchphrase with a lot of coaches is 1-0 every week. We want to be 1-0 every week. 1-0 every week. Tunnel vision, blinders. And if you coach that way, though, then you can't walk in and go, I'm sick and tired of coming up short.
Yeah, it is a double-edged sword.
You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, I get it.
So to be fair, that whole idea of coming in and kicking something and saying, we're going to get over the hump and going to start winning these games. Take all that away, and the idea of today's coach is this. No, we're going to find a way to prepare better and practice better and get ourselves ready for the next one. And if we do it the way we're supposed to do it, we'll get over the hump naturally. You going with me here?
Yeah,
you with me?
And I guess, like, if Oklahoma was a ranked team this week, then you can, I guess, incorporate that, but they're not. Mm-hmm. So your next ranked opponent, theoretically, at this point in time, is Texas A&M in 2 weeks, because you have the bye in between. So, saying that, I guess, is looking past what's next, which obviously you can't do.
It's always we want to be 1-0. The way that the coaches lay it out today, and whoever runs the master coaching class now that everybody uses, if we prepare the way we're supposed to, and we play to our ability, and we play to 100% of the way we want to play, we will win on Saturdays. It's all about us, not them, not anything else. But if we, every week, in the tunnel vision, prepare the right way, practice the right way, coach the right way, and then play the right way on Saturday, everything else will take care of itself.
Right.
That's the way it goes today. So that mumbo-jumbo on Monday doesn't apply to today's coaching, because they don't do that.
Yeah.
There's none of that, because it doesn't fit the next up.
Now, behind the scenes, could be having a different conversation.
Maybe.
I'm sure he's
Maybe.
And well, we know he broke his foot or fractured his foot on the Gatorade cooler after the loss to Florida, but I'm sure it sounds like he can be very fiery away from the microphones as well.
And maybe when none of us are listening, and maybe in how he's going to motivate his team, because they all have the motivational messages for the week.
Yeah.
Maybe something will come up to that in some way, shape, or form. But the way the coaches are today, it's about the next practice, the next lifting session, the next running session, the next film session, the next game. And if we do everything in our power to be as good as we can be, everything will be fine for us in the next game.
Yeah.
Just saying. So that's the way this thing kind of rolls. All right, the next one I want to get to real quick is cut 14, Tyler. Obviously, penalties and turnovers are an issue. They were an issue against Bama. They were an issue against LSU. Whether or not the officials helped out or not in that one, that's the old debate of that game. Here's Shane Beamer talking about fixing penalties and turnovers.
I would hope it's something that can get cleaned up. We had 6, but I'm still disappointed because 3 of those were pre-snap. You know, we had Alabama's defense got up there and yelled, "Move," like a lot of teams do, and we jumped. And then we had another pre-snap penalty where we were going to send the tight end in motion, and the receiver started to go in motion before the tight end went in motion. That was a pre-snap penalty as well. So, and then we got flagged. Don't get me started. We got flagged for delay of game on defense, and that to me is a pre-snap penalty. So we got to get those cleaned up. I can live with some of the penalties. It's the pre-snap ones that are maddening. So we've got to continue to emphasize that and be better. And, you know, I know, and the turnovers, look, you're not going to win games, and I said this after the game, and it's true, you're not going to win games in the SEC on the road at home if you're turning the ball over 4 times. But, you know, also I don't want to, overreact either. Like the 2 that are extremely disappointing are the fact that we've had 2 fumbled exchanges between quarterbacks and running backs 2 weeks in a row. Like that's something you better get fixed in the next 3 or 4 days because this group we're about to play is really disruptive, and it cost us against LSU and it cost us against Bama. So that's something that, you know, we really tried to really be even better at coaching today in practice when we had that 7-minute period where all we work is just quarterback and running back exchanges, you know. But then also one of the turnovers was a 4th down play where they knocked the ball out of Josh's hands when we were short of the 1st down anyway. One of the turnovers was obviously the interception at the end of the game. So too many, don't get me wrong, but you also look at it and say, okay, turnovers are going to happen. We're really opportunistic defensively. We got to continue to be, but we also got to make sure that we don't hurt ourselves more than necessary offensively, for sure.
Again, this will be the theme of the week. You don't turn it over in Norman, Oklahoma, you have a pretty good chance to walk out of there with a win. And obviously, back-breaking penalties, you want to avoid those as well. The pre-snap stuff and the post-snap stuff, like Shane says, but you also look. You commit penalties in games. And guys are doing things because you know what the other team's trying to do? They're trying to do the same thing to you, you're doing to them.
Sure.
Penalties are going to happen. But, you know, some of them at times, like you sit and you go, like a defensive back, why are you running down the field grabbing a jersey 10, 15 yards, running with the jersey in your hand, running down the field, and the official stand there? It's almost like, dude, I got to throw a flag.
Yeah.
You know, holding, just grabbing a guy and taking him to the ground, typically that's going to get called on you. It's almost, if you're going to commit penalties, be smarter, I guess, is what, you know. But I get heat of battle, heat of moment, heat of everything. But it's the guys that keep their poise and composure while all of that is breaking around them. Those are the guys that don't commit those penalties at times.
Yeah.
So, again, if you can play a clean game offensively regarding turnovers and don't kill yourself with penalties, you got a good shot to beat the Sooners. By the way, our viewing party will be at O'Hara's again, 12:30 for Sooners and Gamecocks. Come hang out with us in Lexington on Main Street at O'Hara's on Saturday. Football. Spencer Rattler's debut. Let's get into that next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Okay, real quick. We've been saying 12:45 is the official kickoff time for the game. But we're just kind of going by the increments of how we do things.
Yeah.
But official kickoff is 12:45.
That's right, which really means like 12:50.
Right. But for our purposes, everything goes by half hour. So we should it's officially a kickoff scheduled for 12:45.
Yes, technically speaking.
Technically speaking. But for us, we go 7:30 to right around about 9:15. SEC Report 9:30. Pregame show will run till 12:30-ish. But kickoff officially is 12:45, which, like Tyler said, will probably end up being 12:50. And we'll be at O'Hara's for the viewing party. Again, your chance to win tickets to future Gamecock football games. Come hang out with us. It was a thing on Saturday, man. Place was packed. The emotion swinging one way and the other way and this way and that way. And
we were all bolted into that roller coaster.
That was something else. I've never seen such crazy swings of emotion as it was during that football game.
Me either.
It was wild. And I have to admit, I like bread pudding. Who knew? It was good. I won't lie to you. After I ate because I had the, what did I get? Jeez. I had the corned beef burger.
That's right.
And the sweet potato fries, which were phenomenal. So was the burger. Then I knocked down the bread pudding, which was as big as my head. I didn't eat till Sunday.
Wow.
That was a lot of food, man. A lot of food. See, I'm not you with your under 30 metabolism anymore. I can't. I mean, you went and ate breakfast at some brunch place and then showed up a couple hours later and crushed a steel worker.
I did. That's me.
That's you. I miss that metabolism. I really do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like sitting over here carting at like 300 pounds, but I can't do that anymore. I was making fun of my kid real quick because he went to this breakfast, this brunch place, and got pancakes, which was like 2 or 3 big, and got eggs and potatoes, right? And he couldn't finish it. And I'm like, really? You're 17 years old and you have my metabolism, and you couldn't finish that? You, sir, are weak. And so he's going, oh, yeah, you couldn't do it either. I go, now I can't.
Right.
I'm an old fart. I said, but when I was 17, I'd have crushed that. And then you know what I did an hour later? I'd have went and got a piece of cake.
Yeah. That's me. That's pretty much me.
So you know what he did? So he's like, so we were going back and forth and having some fun with it. And I said, you know what? Screw it. Next time we go to that place, I'm going to get the same thing you got, and I'm going to finish it. That was a mistake. Every now and then you just shouldn't.
You write a check with your mouth that your butt can't cash?
Can't cash. My stomach can't. My stomach ain't going to be able to cash that one, Chief. That's going to be a bad day for me. Even if I do finish it, it's not going to be good.
That's where you can drop a few things on the floor, do the whole napkin spit.
Kick it over.
Exactly. Hey, what's that? Throw a pancake on the floor.
Hold it backwards. Because that will not be good. That will not be good for me.
What was the guy's name in Dumb and Dumber where he flings the thing at him and hits him?
Yeah.
Just don't do that.
Don't do that. Anyway, all right. So O'Hara's viewing party around 12:30, 12:45. We'll get it cooking on Main Street in Lexington. Great food, lots of beverages. Your chance to win future Gamecock football tickets. Spencer Rattler's debut, a mixed bag, like a rookie 5th-round draft pick having his first start in his rookie season. You would expect. Speaking of roller coasters,
sure,
there was good, there was bad. It was, but you saw an NFL arm. You saw some throws where you went, yeah, put that in a pretty tight window. Then you saw some plays where, well, you know what, you can't really do that again.
Yeah,
but that's not surprising. Let's get to Shane Beamer first. Shane talking about Spencer's debut Sunday in that loss to Tampa Bay. Here's Shane.
Like you obviously have to think about it, but you got to like just go out there and play.
Hold on.
If they have
That's Lenore Sellers. This is Shane.
Here's Shane.
No, I did not. It was when I was I had it on a little bit, the television in my office on Sundays after we have a team meeting on Sundays, 1:45, and then we have special teams meetings, offense, defense meetings, and before we go to practice or before the teleconference with you guys. So in between meetings, I had it on in my office and saw a little bit of the game when it was live, which was just when I was between meetings and walking back and forth. I texted with him and his dad last week leading into the game. I haven't talked to him since the game. I think Dowell did. He was telling me this morning, but I haven't. But proud of him to be able to, put up some points in his first start. The vice president of the Saints was actually here today for practice just to watch with all the other NFL personnel that we allow at our practice, and I know he was excited about him and the progress that he made on Saturday, and he goes up against Nate Atkins on Thursday night, I know as well. So a big Thursday night showdown with the Broncos and the Saints from New Orleans. So that'll be a fun one I got to figure out how to get Amazon Prime or whatever. I got to figure out how to get that on my television. I'm a little bit more old school, but my son knows how to do it, so we'll have to tune in Thursday night and watch that one.
Well, you got to have it. You got to be able to pay for Amazon Prime. Ain't free.
I think.
Think he's gonna be okay?
Swing Amazon Prime.
Think he's gonna be okay?
Here's the thing: like, he probably already has it on his TV, and his son's just like, "Dad, you click this, and then you click that, and you watch the game." But I don't got to put in my credit card.
Nope.
No, it's done, Dad.
Well, because a lot of times that comes with certain packages too.
It does.
And the other thing is, like for me, I have Xfinity
Right.
on my laptops and everything. And Xfinity does give you the way through Xfinity, that account you have to go over and get like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or whatever.
Sure.
So to your point, you can probably go in and click a couple things and you'll be in no time.
It's done.
Right. I have Amazon Prime too to mail stuff.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, until they send you the message at 10 o'clock at night. Oh, we couldn't deliver your package today. If it's not delivered within 6 days, you'll get a refund. What? What? That was a nice phone call. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop talking about that right now because that was, yeah. Anyway. All right, so here's Spencer Rattler. Now, Rattler went 22 of 40, 243, only averaged 6 yards an attempt, did have a touchdown pass, threw 2 picks in the game, was sacked 5 times. Again, a mixed bag. But the funny part was New Orleans was up 27-24 at the half, being down 17-0 at one point.
Second quarter was nuts.
Wasn't it? I mean, there was 3 Tampa Bay turnovers. I mean, Baker Mayfield had 3 picks. And also, there was a fumble return for a touchdown by the Saints. It was craziness in the first.
Had the punt return.
Yeah, the punt return. I mean, Tampa Bay had the fumble return. Winfield.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy first half. Saints were up 27-24, and then Tampa Bay road graded them 27-0 in the second half. But I think Spencer, and I had 2 TVs paying attention to it. The one TV had the Saints and the Falcons. The other TV had Ravens Commanders. And from what I was going back and forth, I mean, again, Spencer made some throws. You go, yes, that's NFL arm talent. We knew that at South Carolina. You knew that at Oklahoma.
Sure.
So he can spin it enough to play quarterback in the NFL. When it's going to come down, I think that Spencer, when it comes to preparation, being a pro, between the end of the one game and the beginning of the other, I think Spencer can do all that stuff now. I think he's a mature guy.
Sure.
What's going to come down to is when there's heat, look, most quarterbacks aren't as good when you're getting pressured than when they're clean, right?
Yeah.
But you just can't make catastrophic mistakes and decisions when you're getting heat.
Right.
And that's where I think with Spencer, that was kind of a problem here with Spencer.
Which he cut down on it in his second season here, but those turnover-worthy throws where you just fling it up and it's into double coverage, like he got better with that, but that's something you certainly can't do in the NFL because they will make you pay.
I go back to the A&M game where he had 3 intentional groundings because of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can get over that hump, he has so many other skills that could make him an NFL quarterback. I mean, a starting NFL quarterback. Here's Spencer Rattler's thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I thought the first half was really good for all of us. I think we came out, we were sloppy as a group throughout the whole second half. Couldn't really get anything going, shot ourselves in the foot a few times, made a few mistakes. Starting with myself, got to play better in that second half. But, we fought, we battled, and, we'll learn and get better from it.
Classic Spencer Rattler, quick to the point, done. He's been coached so well.
He's not the most insightful guy, but
that's all been done on purpose.
Yes, it has.
No doubt. He's been coached. Football, the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Let's hear from some of the players. We're here from Lenore Sellers about not overthinking fumbles. And Nick Harbor on his touchdown catch. That's coming up on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. we're talking about is football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. All right, so obviously South Carolina, Oklahoma coming up this Saturday. 12:45 officially is the kickoff time. We start up everything at 7:30 with Gamecocks Game Day right here from the Command Center at 107.5 The Game. All right, so let's shift off to some player sound, Tyler. First of all, Lenore Sellers, we really haven't talked about the turnovers this week much, have we?
Not at all.
No, I haven't really brought that up. Well, here's Lenore Sellers discussing the turnover issue that he has had at times in his first year as a starter.
Like, you obviously have to think about it, but you got to, like, just go out there and play. Like, if they happen, they happen. It's like you just got to move on from it. Like, you don't want them to happen, but, like, if you worry about them happening, then they're going to happen. So you just got to go out there and play.
That is true. If you think about them, they'll happen. So it's kind of a weird thing, right? You and again, they practice it all week long. You practice ball security. You practice all these things, right? Defense practices knocking it out of people's hands. Offense practices ball security. There are guys who walk through school holding the football.
Yeah.
Why? Ball security. You saw Tiki Barber go way out of his way to stop his fumble issues when he was playing for the Giants.
It's something that has to become natural to you because the more you focus on it, the more likely you are to mess it up because while you're focusing on trying to hold on to the ball, you're going to lapse your judgment in something else and could lead to another problem.
What's that whole, unfulfilled prophecy thing of if you keep worrying about it, it happens, right? So you don't want it in your head because you want to go play free. But with your practice and preparation during the week, you want it to become muscle memory.
Right.
And plus, it's really with Lenore's, too, it's been decision-making. The fumble where he's trying to throw the ball and he flips it and all that.
You got to learn to take the sack.
Take the sack. You got to. And again, talking about the fumble at the mesh point with Rocket, that's just ball handling, with practice. You got to learn how to be better in that situation with the mesh point. If you're going to pull it, if you're going to put it in the running back's gut. Some of that stuff is just going to be repetition and practice and ball security in general about decision making. So you feel like that in time is going to smooth itself out, unless you hope you don't want another Will Levis on your hands. Titans, lucky you. So I get where Lenoris is going. You obviously don't want it to happen, but you can't be running on the field going, okay, I just can't fumble today. Just can't fumble, baby. All right, let's go. Get in the huddle. All right, no fumbling. Yeah. Because,
and that's where you hope the learning process comes into play, saying, okay, here's the mistake that I made against Alabama or whatever game, he had his respective fumbles in and say, okay, let me not do those things that I did in that play again and get better. And Lenore Sellers seems like a smart kid, and you hope that he does not continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, but it's kind of one of those wait-and-see things because, again, if you give Oklahoma the opportunities, they're going to make you pay for it.
Well, that's the biggest thing in this game is the two things that Oklahoma lives on are the two things that South Carolina has had problems with. But they are correctable things.
Right.
You just have to start correcting them Saturday. Then you can win the football game. Now, if you sit there and, again, 4 more turnovers on the road, hey, you could walk out of that stadium with a loss. So, all right. Also, Nick Harbor, huge touchdown catch late in the game. Cut the lead to 2 and set up that 2-point conversion try for the tie. Here's Nick Harbor first talking about that touchdown catch.
So first, I think it was like 1st and 10. We had just got a penalty face mask. So, why not take a shot? And Coach Ferry was yelling at me on the sideline. He was like, "Run! You about to get this ball." I looked at 16. 16 looked at me. I'm like, all right, it's time to go make a play. Like, that's the moments where, you dream of, go make a play for your team. Big game, Alabama, trying to get the upset. And I'm like, just throw it up to 8. Good things happen.
Yeah, it did. It was a nice play, getting that foot down. Remember, first it was called out of bounds.
Yep.
And that was another part of the craziness of O'Hara's. It's called out of bounds, and you see the replay before it's overturned, and it's obvious that Harbor's foot's in bounds.
Yeah.
Place goes berserk, right?
Yeah,
people are screaming at the TV.
Not sure how you missed that one the first time, but whatever. They overturned it.
Right, and people are screaming at the TV, no, he's in bounds, he's in bounds. And it was nuts, and then they overturn it, and the place goes crazy again with the touchdown with Nick Harbor. Now the flip side, that final play when Lenore Sellers kind of threw an alley-oop up for grabs, a Hail Mary almost, and Harbor just didn't even know the ball was in the air, it looked like. And that will be cut 18, Tyler, miscommunication on that last play.
Yeah, I didn't see the ball thrown because, you see it. You throw it before I got out my break, and then, I just didn't see it. So, that's not on him, that's on me. So, anytime, I didn't know where it was at, and then I just seen it fall in the DB's hands. But, it's a learning experience, and I was just on a different page than everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Harbor owned it for his part of it. He's like, I didn't see it. I gotta locate the ball. I gotta be able to lock myself in quicker, and that's on me.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Again, he's coming along in his development, but he's not a full-fledged wide receiver to where you need him to be. So maybe having him in that position wasn't the best option. Obviously, he was down the field where you needed him to be, but the communication wasn't there, and that's just something you got to learn from, unfortunately.
And so we saw the good side of the upside and the potential of Nick Harbor. We saw it come through with the touchdown catch, and we saw still the rawness of Nick Harbor.
Yeah.
All in the same, span of 10 minutes?
Basically. And again, that's his obviously highlight play of the year so far. And, he's made catches here and there. And when he is getting the ball thrown his way, he's making the catch. It's just, still working on the getting open and the route running. And obviously you're doing things when he gets the ball in his hands that, doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately.
No, and obviously we talked about the decision to throw that ball down the field instead of checking it down to Jacobs, who's on the sideline wide open, and you let Jacobs catch it, run up the field, go out of bounds, and you bring in Alex Herrera, which you hope would be a game-winning field goal.
You try. You have a better odds of that than just chucking it to the end zone.
And with experience, you hope that Lenore Sellers understands the correct play is going to Jacobs, let him get some yak, get out of bounds, bring in Herrera, hopefully he makes the kick. And that's where you're at. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Oh, you know what I just saw, Tyler, and I love him.
What's that?
I love him. Jordan Reed, ESPN, mock draft.
Yeah, I was skimming through that earlier.
Mock draft. I love me some mock drafts. I'm a draft dork. Love the draft. And it's interesting, and again, because look, we know, typically these guys do 32 picks. They're lucky to get 5, right?
Right.
We know, we get it. It's not Joe Lunardi. It's not bracketology. A mock draft it's just something for us to talk about and yip about, right? That's really what it is.
Right.
Well, according to Jordan Reed's really way too early mock draft, Shedeur Sanders would go to the Cleveland Browns, who would get the first pick. And the Browns do have the first pick. You think they're going to take quarterback? Whether the quarterback is truly the highest rated player of the draft or not, it doesn't matter.
They got to get somebody.
There's trouble there. We've talked about it. Deshaun Watson, none of it's cheap. It's all, if you keep him, you pay the cap as you move along because the entire contract is guaranteed. If you cut him, the cutting him number I think is $170 million.
Mm-hmm.
You take to your cap. Basically, you can't field a team.
Essentially. Which is why they haven't made a switch at quarterback.
And they can't cut him.
Yeah.
Either you keep him and eat it, or you trade him and pay X amount of the salary and give up a ton of draft capital. Nothing is good here. And if you keep starting him, obviously it's not good because right now he's terrible. All you can hope for is some way, shape, or form, the Houston Texan version of Deshaun Watson, they find him tied up on the side of the road somewhere and bring him to Cleveland so you can get the quarterback you thought you were getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only hope you have right now. And by the way, what's the percentage of that happening?
Low.
Very low. Very low. By the way, Travis Hunter would go number 2 to New England. I think Travis Hunter is ridiculous. Wide receiver, corner. There are a lot of people think he'll be a corner in the NFL. He might play two-way in the NFL in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
If you do it the right way. He can't go out there and play 100 snaps like he is right now. He'll get destroyed at some point. But you can use him. A creative team could draft him and use him in some fashion on both sides of the ball. Maybe you say corner, that's where you're going to be, but we're also going to incorporate you 20 plays a game on the offense or whatever.
Right.
But I don't know if New England's creative enough to do that. It's just interesting. And, of course, Carolina Panthers, Abdul Carter, edge, Penn State. They need everything. That's just the top 3. We might look at a little bit more of this before we get out of here, too. And football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll check the Firehouse Sub Text the Hour next right here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Oh, time for our Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100. Before that, finish up this little mock draft thing. Again, it's just fun to talk about. We know that most of this won't matter by draft day, but no Gamecocks, no Kyle Kennard. Even though I think Kennard is moving himself up to a day 2 pick right now, and not a first-round pick at this time. Might not even be a first-round pick, but I do think if he continues on the trajectory he's been rolling on, he'll be a day 2 guy.
He has risen significantly from where he would have been before the season.
Absolutely. SEC obviously is filled in this thing. We don't have time to go through them all, but yeah, the SEC's got a bunch of folks that are being picked in this mock by Jordan Reed of ESPN. All right, 803-404-6100. What do you got there on the old Firehouse Sub text line, my man?
David says, I like the optimism. Carolina fans have seen this story before, though. A team we should beat but somehow lose. Hopefully I'm wrong.
You know, I want to. David brings that up, and David, you're not alone. You're not. But let's get to yesterday. We did a poll question, and I hate when the poll questions go. Here it is. Is this it? No, that's not the one. Oh, this one ended. I'm gonna have to paraphrase it because we have a new one now that we'll get to in a minute. Basically, it was after the Alabama game. You know, how do you feel about going into Norman, Oklahoma, and beating the Sooners? Most people feel like they'll win a good, hard-fought game, right?
Right.
That was number one in the poll. Most people, but the number 2 thing people voted for, basically, find a way to lose. That was the second highest.
Which I get.
I look, I'm not criticizing anybody. I get it. Right? We've talked to enough folks, just you and I talking to people one-on-one.
Yeah.
To totally understand why. That's number 2.
I think the biggest benefit to South Carolina is the fact that Oklahoma fell out of the top 25 after losing Red River last week. So at least you're not taking on a ranked team to potentially go 0-10 against ranked teams.
Yeah, I mean, I get the mindset because of all these. I had Bill and Preston out here. It wasn't today; it was yesterday or the day before. It all runs together. I think it was Monday after the show. Just giving me all of the history and the list of how South Carolina Gamecock fans have been let down or had their hopes built up only to have this team lose. And so I get it. But it is telling when, and this is a Twitter poll, it's not like we're going door to door, right? But in the world of Twitter, we have almost 32,000, we have 31,000 Twitter followers. And in our Twitter poll, our unscientific poll, number 1 is, I think South Carolina will go in there and win a hard-fought game against Oklahoma. 2, they'll find a way to screw it up or find a way to lose or find a way to break my heart.
Right.
And it's just that is part of the psyche here. And that's why, when you talk to people who are, looking at this, they go, oh, yeah, you're right, Terry. Yeah, you're right, Tyler. On paper, Oklahoma's offense is worse, and the South Carolina defense is just as good as Oklahoma's, if not a little bit better, and Oklahoma's got this problem, that problem. But at the end of the day, I'm really nervous to see how we lose this game.
I think there's a lot of South Carolina fans that you said all you have to do is show up on Saturday and Oklahoma's going to forfeit the game to you and you're still going to win. They're like, I don't know. They might trip coming off the bus and they'd have to rule by technicality that Oklahoma won.
It's just the idea, too, that like when you sit and talk about it, there's a portion of this fan base. And also, if you say, South Carolina's better than Oklahoma, they should go in there and win. Don't say that out loud. What are you, nuts?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I remember even in games like, like for earlier this year, you play Akron. You should beat Akron like a drum. Hey, they lost to Furman back in 19, and I mean it's just ingrained.
No, I get it,
and I understand. When you get so many disappointments or so many, oh my God, I can't believe they lost that games in your psyche and in your history. You can't help yourself. You just can't. And, we talk about whether it's, the psyche of a Gamecock fan or how a Cub fan was or a Red Sox fan forever or, the psyche of a Browns fan, or you can go all over sports.
Yeah, you try not to get too hopeful because the other shoe's going to drop at some point.
Yeah, and you're scared. You're scared to be hopeful because you're scared to be let down again, right?
Right. Right.
And that's kind of where you're at. A lot of fan bases, not just this one here. But I just thought it was interesting. The number 2 pick behind, should win a hard-fought game, was they'll find a way to lose. So, and we have a Twitter poll today as well at 1075 The Game on Twitter X. Just how you feel right now. Direction of the whole football program. 51% say it's going in the right direction. Only 9 think it's going in the wrong direction. 40% still don't know. So that's where it's at. I personally feel like I still think it's going in the right direction. I do. We'll see at the end of this year where everything's at, but still get that feel. I still feel like this thing's going in the right direction. But you can go on Twitter and give us your thoughts. All right, what's trending at 2 is coming up next here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head till 3 here on The Game.
2 o'clock, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Terry Fort, Tyler Head, along with you here on your Wednesday. On the game, it is time to look at what is trending at 2, and we'll start here similarly with something relating to Oklahoma, because yesterday in his presser, Brent Venables was asked the question about if Jackson Arnold was potentially going to redshirt this year, because he's played under the minimum amount of games. And, of course, he's only a redshirt freshman at this point in time, so he could potentially preserve a year of eligibility if they decide to redshirt him. Now, the question would be, does he do that for Oklahoma, or does he end up going and playing somewhere else? And Venables essentially alluded to the fact that they've considered it, but they still see him as a viable option at Oklahoma. And the question is, and this goes back to something that Terry and I were discussing a little bit earlier, when do you pull the trigger on that? Because through the first handful of games, he wasn't like awful. He wasn't great, but he wasn't just this utter disaster where every time the ball left his hands, it was going to the other team. And they still, gave him the hook and put Michael Hawkins in there, who has been okay. But again, when you look at the numbers, he's not necessarily been lighting the world on fire and is not significantly different than what Jackson Arnold did. So it almost leads you to believe, like, okay, well, if they've gone this far with Michael Hawkins and not switch back, what would be the reason that they would? I mean, obviously injuries, the possibility there that they could always do something along those lines, but it seems like they're pretty committed to Michael Hawkins at this point in time. And if we are to believe what the speculation is around the Oklahoma program, that Jackson Arnold may end up transferring out at the end of the year anyway. So there's no preserving him. He doesn't want to stick around. And that's why they potentially think that Michael Hawkins is now the future, and you have to grow with him and see him develop, which also begs the question, why didn't you do that with Jackson Arnold? It's a whole mess of a situation, right, that they're dealing with. And a point that I brought up earlier today, they also have Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson has been around college football for seemingly 20 years at this point in time. He started games at Texas, started at Nebraska, recently was at FAU last season, but now is on the roster at Oklahoma. And he's somebody with his experience. Now, was he the greatest quarterback in the world? He wasn't, but he has a lot of experience under his belt, more than Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold combined have as of right now. Why couldn't he be a potential option there? Maybe you're not trying to anger another quarterback. Maybe. While Thompson may be the fix in a short term, it does not help your long-term solution at quarterback. And again, it's a lot of chess pieces, a lot of things moving around there with that quarterback room in Oklahoma that, more power to him. Brent Venables is probably having a tough time juggling all that. That being said, even if Casey Thompson came in with no offensive line, with pretty much all your receivers hurt, all key receivers at least, how much success can you expect him to have? Which, again, goes back to how much did you really give a chance to Jackson Arnold if you did not give him a complement of weapons around him and protection up front to make a difference? Now, yes, he did have Deion Burks when he was playing, but still, he got sacked 10 times in the 4 games that he started? He was under constant duress because that offensive line is so bad. I've been skimming through the replay of the Red River Shootout in the commercial breaks today, and every time Michael Hawkins gets the ball, they're on him, like right on top of him. Now, he is elusive when he has the ball in his hands, and he is very good at breaking tackles, so he's kept himself alive, but still, they're bearing down on him left and right because that offensive line is just absolutely atrocious at Oklahoma, which that benefits South Carolina because that's something they can hopefully take advantage of. On the flip side of things, you hope Carolina's offensive line can allow Lenore Sellers to stay alive on Saturday because guess what? They're going to be bringing heat on him too. So the over-under of sacks in this game could get very, very high if you're looking for a good prop bet for going into the weekend. Elsewhere on what's trending it to, the NCAA Football Playing Rules Committee, this is per Yahoo Sports, is actively engaged in making an in-season adjustment to the penalty that benefited Oregon at the end of the Oregon-Ohio State game. So with 10 seconds to go, Dan Lanning sent a 12th man onto the field to intentionally draw a penalty. But the way the rule is written as of right now, the time does not go back on the clock. So Lanning threw the guy out there, which he's admitted to this since then. We know it's legit. He throws the guy out there. They run the play, get the flag, 4 seconds come off the clock. Well, while Ohio State got the yardage penalty, they did not get the time back. And, of course, on the final play of the game, Will Howard tucks and runs and, does not stop in time to allow for Ohio State to call a timeout, despite the fact they were basically in field goal range, and they end up losing the game 32-31. So now the Rules Committee is attempting, or planning at least, to change this rule where the time will get reset. Now, they did say, and this per Yahoo Sports again, that the Big Ten officiating crew did call that play correctly. What they called and how they handled that with the procedure of the time and stuff was done to the letter of the law. But again, when you have a coach that's exploited loophole, because guess what's going to happen now? A whole lot more. This kind of penalty if you don't end up making the change. It's interesting. It's an interesting debate to have on if you should change rules mid-seasons or not. Because, and I'm surprised more coaches have not done it up to this point. I'm sure there have been others out there that have done it, but I imagine most coaches would look at what Dan Lanning did and say, God, why didn't I think of that? Because it's brilliant, right? And that's what being especially a head coach is, finding holes and gray areas in a rule book and trying to exploit them, not cheating. There's a difference between cheating and exploiting a rule. Because if you're cheating, you're going out of your way to garner an unfair advantage over your opponent through nefarious means, which are, illegal, essentially. This doesn't fall into that category. Dan Lanning and his defensive staff, which here's the thing. Dan Lanning, if he was being truly honest about this, which he may not now that the rule's getting changed, he's probably sat on that for a long time. He's probably had that idea in the back of his head for a very long time, waiting for the right opportunity to use it. And maybe he's used it before and we don't notice. Maybe when he was the DC at Georgia, they used it, not to my memory, but maybe it's something that's come up before. But he utilized it in the best possible scenario on Saturday because it helped him win the game. Because you essentially cut an extra play out of what Ohio State could have done there in those waning seconds. Because 6 seconds left, and when Will Howard cuts up and runs, that's it. He's gonna have to get down. They're gonna have to call a timeout and kick the field goal, as opposed to if they got reset with 10 seconds to go, got the yardage penalty, then maybe he's trying to find somebody out of bounds real quick, or he could have thrown it to the middle of the field and maybe had enough time to still stop the clock with the timeout that they have. But again, you got to give a tip of the cap to Lanning for having the wherewithal to think about this, right? Having the idea in his head, like, hey, maybe we can do this in a scenario that would benefit us to try and win the game. And that's exactly what they ended up doing, which I thought, tip of the cap to him, but sounds like that rule will be getting changed here in the very near future. Yesterday, NFL announced the site of the 2028 Super Bowl, so the Super Bowl after the 2027 season. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta getting its second Super Bowl. Four-time city of Atlanta has hosted the event as they will come back to Mercedes-Benz for the first time since 2019, where we saw the boring Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Los Angeles Rams, which, funny enough, that was the end of the Patriots dynasty as we knew it, with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick winning that, again, very sleepy, kind of boring Super Bowl there in Atlanta. So Atlanta gets the Super Bowl back in 2028. This year's Super Bowl is in New Orleans in the Superdome. Next year they go out to Santa Clara in 2026, and then SoFi Stadium in 2027. The Super Bowl obviously has to consider a lot of factors when it comes to hosting. Obviously, the weather conditions are a huge one. I thought it was very risky when they had that Super Bowl at MetLife Stadium between the Broncos and the Seahawks, because February in New York, New Jersey, you could have been in the blizzard for all you know. Now, it ended up being okay weather-wise. It was a cold game. But for the most part, the NFL really likes these indoor, closed type of venues, or at least in a place where the weather is almost guaranteed good year-round. like a Miami or like a Santa Clara with Levi Stadium where the 49ers play. Like now, if you're in one of these markets where it is iffy, you have to build, I don't even want to call them sports arenas anymore because they've become entertainment complexes, right? Like when you think about what goes into new NFL stadiums, yeah, the main tenant is going to be whatever that football team is in that given area, but they're thinking way farther ahead than that. They're thinking about concerts. They're thinking about Final Fours. They're thinking about, all kinds of things that can be done year round. And which it makes sense because with how much you pay as a taxpayer or the owners themselves, you got to be able to justify using this thing for more than just a few things a year. Now, in years past, obviously, football-specific stadiums were used for concerts and things like that, but that does limit you a little bit on things you can do, especially like in the wintertime because of the weather. But with Atlanta, formerly having the Georgia Dome, now having Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you can host these events in December. You have the option to close your roof and have events year-round. And having the Super Bowl is something that you get the benefit of when you have one of these venues. Look at what the Titans are doing with renovations to Nissan Stadium, where they are trying to get these kind of high-level events to make their way to what is a very bustling and growing city in Nashville that's become a destination hotspot. I mean, we saw the NFL draft there a couple years ago. I can't imagine what a Super Bowl in Nash Vegas would end up looking like. There were discussions of what's going to be going on with Bank of America Stadium and trying to maybe put a roof over it one day with the Carolina Panthers because of that appeal of we want to bring these big events there. And you look at the recent stadium developments with places like Minnesota, who they had the Humpty Dome before, but they built this extravagant, huge U.S. Bank Stadium with the idea that hey, we're going to get Super Bowls. We're going to get Final Fours. We're going to get WrestleManias, those kind of things. Allegiant Stadium out there in Las Vegas, same kind of thing, where the weather in Vegas is good, but having an indoor venue gives you year-round possibilities to do all kinds of things, and they are, probably well on their way to getting a Super Bowl here in the next handful of years, too, which is a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. That would be absolutely insane, and there would be a record amount of money probably put down on that Super Bowl whenever that does, or whenever that does happen there. So they have it in Vegas this past year? I can't remember. They may have already had it in Vegas, but regardless, those kind of venues where you have high-level events that can happen year-round, and Atlanta's one of those as they do get another Super Bowl, and hopefully it's a better game than what we saw with the Rams and the Patriots a couple of years ago. So that's a little bit of what's trending at 2. I want to jump back into the Oklahoma conversation coming up next because a factor of this game is the environment. Oklahoma and Gaylord Family Stadium is not an easy place to play. How's that going to factor for South Carolina this weekend? We'll hear Shane Beamer's thoughts on the environment at Oklahoma coming up next. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, along with you on your Wednesday on the game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you. Terry Ford will be back here in just a minute. So we continue on with what is trending at 2. And by the way, brain fart for me in that last segment. The Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas hosts the Super Bowl this year between the Chiefs and the 49ers. I don't know why Super Bowl venues are hard to remember at times, because obviously it's a new place every single year, and you really kind of focus more on the game itself. There's a few that I can remember kind of off the top of my head, which is weird because that's something that I figure I could be very oddly specific when remembering where kind of things took place. I'm really good at remembering where college football playoff national championships took place, but the Super Bowl, it's a little more hit or miss for me. But again, Atlanta getting the Super Bowl in 2028, of course, Super Bowl back in New Orleans for the 8,000th time coming up here in February when the NFL season is all said and done. Beamer was asked a couple different times yesterday about, his personal angle to this game coming up on Saturday, because of course he was a former assistant in Oklahoma playing under Lincoln Riley, and he seems to be, from everything that we've gathered, a very well liked and loved coach from his time there that people in Oklahoma still seem to talk about. So this game is going to hold some meaning and weight for Coach Beamer going back there. Not that it's going to affect the game necessarily, because he remembers driving in on whatever road or staying at the hotel that they're going to be staying at, but it's going to mean something to him. And Coach Beamer, in having coached at Oklahoma before, is very aware and familiar with the type of environment that you're going to run into at Gaylord Family Stadium. Now, we in the SEC obviously pride ourselves on loud stadiums seemingly everywhere in the conference, and it almost made a perfect fit. The Texas and Oklahoma come in with very proud fan bases themselves that can certainly rattle you if you are playing there as the away team. So here's Coach Beamer yesterday talking to the media, not only about playing at OU, but about tough environments in general that this team has been facing.
Sorry. Yeah, you went from a hostile environment and one of the great storied programs of college football and one of the great stadiums in college football last week in Tuscaloosa to now we get to do that again this week as well. And we talked about it this morning in our team meeting, just because none of our guys have been there, and other than Davis Bevel, who transferred from there, but just the tradition and what the stadium's like, and all the great traditions that they have there, the Sooner Schooner and the Roughnecks in the end zone that shoot their shotguns and everything. I mean, it's just a really cool place. But I would hope that, last Saturday, never once, and I'm not knocking Alabama, but never once did I feel like our team was affected by the crowd noise and the environment. I never felt like there was a time where our guys just looked up and were like, oh my God. If they did a great job of disguising it. And I would hope that Saturday would be the same thing. We know it'll be another hostile environment. They sell out every home game every year. Saturday will be no different. But I think just the experience of, okay, we've been to Kentucky, we won, we played in front of went to a stadium Saturday that was a lot more people than what we've went up against in Kentucky and Lexington, just the size of the stadium. We did okay from handling the crowd for the most part. And I think just kind of going back to Jordan's question with Lenoris, it's the same thing with the whole team in regards to just the experience of being on the road and being able to handle road environments as well.
I talked earlier on in the week about Coach Beamer's struggle with ranked teams as of late. Again, I'll bring up the stat one more time. Since those 2 wins against Tennessee and Clemson at the end of the 2022 season, which, again, those teams were on the doorstep of the college football playoff, Coach Beamer is 0-9 taking on ranked teams. Unfortunately, Oklahoma doesn't have a number next to their name anymore, but still, it's something that this team has struggled with over the past almost 2 years now. Something else that they haven't been great at in the entire Beamer era is winning on the road. They're 5-11 in true road games under Shane Beamer. Now, that being said, they've gone out and talking about that Clemson win 2 years ago, they've had big wins on the road. It's not impossible by any means, but they've struggled for the most part on the road in Beamer's tenure. And again, last weekend wasn't a struggle. You still lost the game, but I wouldn't say you struggled necessarily, but still, losing's losing. And you got to get over that hump. There's a lot of things riding on this game this weekend for South Carolina, which is why taking the crowd out of it is so important. I said this after the Ole Miss game that then I didn't think South Carolina's offense was designed to dig themselves out of a hole. And when Ole Miss got up 14-0, there was a lot of people that left not long after that, and certainly left before halftime because they knew the team was not capable of clawing back from that kind of deficit, at least at that point. And we saw them obviously do that against Alabama this past weekend. But I think it's a similar kind of thing with Oklahoma. If you can get in there and jump on them quickly, they don't have an offense that's designed to come roaring back by any means. And again, I think South Carolina's got a better offense than they do, not by a whole lot, but certainly some advantage, right? So if you can take them out of it, if you can put together one of those masterful drives, get a touchdown the opening drive, force a 3-and-out, or make them punt, whatever it may be, and go down there and get another touchdown, you get a 14-0, there's going to be a lot of belief that leaves the hearts of fans in that game because they know what their team is. They've seen their team, and they're probably well aware that they are not designed to come roaring back after some kind of deficit like that. So that's a big key for Saturdays. Take the crowd out of it. Don't let them affect you because, again, you've already had enough false start penalties, offsides penalties. You don't need the crowd noise of Norman, Oklahoma to make those matter worse. So hopefully Carolina is, in good shape for this weekend and does not let the crowd affect them and ultimately just takes them out of the game. I mentioned things on the line this weekend. This is such a crucial point for the rest of the year for South Carolina because you're 3-3 right now. And, if you would have told people prior to the season that, hey, you're going to be 3-3 after the Alabama game, I think most people would have believed you. Now, they would not have known the path you get to that point. But looking at this team now, the importance of this game really can't be understated. Because if you win and you improve yourself to 4-3, and again, my line here is getting back to a bowl game. That becomes a lot more achievable when you look at the rest of the schedule. And not easy games between A&M, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Wofford, and Clemson. You just got to find 2 more wins. Wofford should be a gimme. We'll see what Vanderbilt is when you get there. But that's a whole lot easier than dropping this game, going to 4-3, and going to 3-4, excuse me, and then saying, okay, out of those final 5 games, I got to win 3 of them. That's hard. Now you do get A&M and Missouri here, but that's not a guarantee. So the importance of this game is huge for South Carolina, just for the sake of achieving their goals this year, to a bare minimum, get back to a bowl game. And again, it all boils down to not shooting yourself in the foot on Saturday by making some of the same mistakes you've made a lot this year, starting with Sellers protecting the football. And hopefully the offensive line can somewhat keep him upright because they're going to be bringing the heat. That's for sure. Today is October the 16th. Greatest day in the history of the world. With that coming up next, it is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, along with you on your Wednesday here on The Game.
All right, time for the greatest day in the history of the world. I got some good stuff today, man. All right, we always go to the old school. Just a good one, Tyler Head. This day in 1897, Michigan beats Ohio State 34-0 in Ann Arbor, the first meeting between the two. This day in 1897. Why does Michigan and Ohio State hate each other so bad? Isn't that a question in your head? Don't you think about that all the time?
Yeah, I guess I've never pondered the origins of the rivalry.
One slant why there could be such a hatred between the two states and the two schools. It's called the Toledo War.
Okay.
1835, 1836, also known as the Michigan-Ohio War or the Ohio-Michigan War. It was a boundary dispute between these two states over the area which is called the Toledo Strip, right by the Maumee River. Basically, you have some serious shipping opportunities there.
Yeah.
Also, there was good farmland, valuable economic assets. Now, if you've ever been to the city of Toledo, which I have, you're stunned to think anybody would fight over the city of Toledo or the area around the city of Toledo. Toledo, not on anybody's bucket list.
Do you think this is what they base, because when you're coming up in school, there are certain periods of history and wars that are an entire semester worth of study. Do you think in Michigan and Ohio they teach about this war and that's why the rivalry is as big as it is?
Could be, because you think about it for a minute, you basically have two states fighting over a patch of land. It was originally in Michigan's.
Yeah.
It was on Michigan's side originally, and Ohio just took it.
Yeah.
They said, we want Toledo. Now they're going, you want Toledo back? Would you like Toledo? You can have Toledo. Please, take Toledo. Anyway, so that's where some people think the origination of all of this started, and they played the first game 1897, and Michigan punked them. Here's one for you. Whenever you're watching a boring NFL game, and you're like, oh, mother of God, this is awful. Like any random Thursday night game usually. 1932. The Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears played twice that year. The first game was a 0-0 tie. The second game, the Packers won 2-0. 2 games, 2 full games of football, 2 points were scored. Yeah, that's torture. 1976, Tony Franklin of Texas A&M, a kicker at Texas A&M, boots 2 field goals over 60 yards. Franklin hit a 65 and a 64-yarder. I believe he was barefoot, too, if I remember. Aggies beat Baylor 24-0. 1977, Kenny Stabler was looked at as a very good quarterback in his time with the Oakland Raiders. In a game in 1977, the Broncos picked off Kenny Stabler 7 times. Denver won 30-7. I wonder how sober Stabler was for that one. I got a chance to interview Kenny Stabler. My first year in sports talk in 2000. He was great. Fantastic interview. Guy had stories. He was funny. He was fantastic. And Kenny Stabler as a player was known to have a lot of fun. Let's put it that way. But on this day in 1977, Stabler threw 7 picks. Crazy. This day in 1987, Mike Tyson retains his undisputed heavyweight championship with a 7-round knockout of Tyrell Biggs in Atlantic City. Obviously, this is Tyson at the height of Tyson. Before Cus D'Amato died, Don King got involved, and all the other nonsense that went on. This day in 1999, Mount Union in football beats Otterbein 44-20 for its 48th consecutive victory. That was a record for all divisions. The old mark was held by Bud Wilkinson's Oklahoma teams. They won 47 in a row back in, I believe it was in late 40s, early 50s. By the way, some dude named Lionel Messi made his debut in 2004 for FC Barcelona. Messi was 17 years old. More Mount Union. 2004, Mount Union beats Marietta 57-0 for its 100th consecutive victory. At that point, they had just about a 10-year win streak. Matter of fact, it was a 10-year win streak. Their last loss was October 5th, 1994. Mount Union one of the most unbelievable football dynasties, forget what division, in the history of college football. And finally, on this day in 2017, Louisville's Athletic Association officially fires Rick Pitino nearly 3 weeks after the school acknowledged that its men's basketball program is being investigated as part of a federal corruption probe. The association, which oversees Louisville sports programs, is composed of trustees, faculty, students, and administrators, voted unanimously to get rid of Pitino following a board meeting. Now, obviously, that was the whole FBI wiretap deal with the shoe company scandal. Here's the thing, though. If you're Louisville and you look back on that, and look, Rick Pitino obviously had his share of off-the-court drama that Louisville just swept under the rug because they won a national title and went to multiple Final Fours under Pitino. But really, if you think about it, you have to fire Rick Pitino. I mean, you didn't have to. Nothing happened to Bill Self in Kansas. I mean, Sean Miller could have stayed at Arizona. What were they going to do? You didn't have to get rid of anybody. You saw what happened with this whole mess with the NCAA and this whole shoe company thing. Nothing. You could have conceivably kept Rick Pitino. And yeah, maybe Pitino, if you just look at his part of all this, his might have been worse than Bill Self. Maybe there was more direct evidence to Rick Pitino, but still, again, the powerless NCAA, what do? Nothing. And now in the world we live in NIL, all this under the table stuff is on top of the table. Matter of fact, shoe companies don't hardly matter anymore. But it's just the reality of how powerless and really how much of a joke and how really hypocritical the NCAA is in general. So there's the greatest day in the history of the world. Very interesting greatest day in the history of the world today. Here on the Halftime Show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Obviously, we switch back now. We've been talking a ton about, really focused on Oklahoma today. The Sooners. And the fact that South Carolina can go into Norman and have a good chance to win. Because really, they're the better football team. They just are. I mean, Oklahoma beat Auburn at Auburn on a pick six, and you give Oklahoma credit for getting that turnover from a turnover-happy team. South Carolina has committed the second most turnovers in the SEC. You know who's committed the most? Auburn. And that's how Auburn lost the game. So, again, if you can stay clean and not commit turnovers, you have a good shot to beat an Oklahoma squad that offensively, they're one of the worst offenses in America. Defensively, a decent amount of their numbers are below average. Their numbers that are above average, sacks, forced turnovers. They lead the SEC in turnover margin. So basically, you can't be sloppy, because if you are, that's how Oklahoma can beat you. If you look at Oklahoma's season, they had that Auburn win. Besides that, they whooped Temple, who doesn't, beat a solid Tulane team at home, and escaped against an underwhelming Houston squad.
I think that game against Houston is where things kind of started to turn, because they weren't thrilled about the Temple win, even though they won by 40 some odd points. But it was that game against Houston. It was like, okay, you should be able to move the ball better against this team than escaping with a 4-point win. That's where the wheels started kind of turning, all right, maybe Jackson Arnold's not as good as we thought he was. And, of course, they end up making the decision in the Tennessee game, and, he hasn't seen the field since.
And, look, they might end up being right before it's all said and done. But I just find that a very quick hook on a guy that was going to be your future, and you really didn't try to keep the guy you knew who was really good. By the way, Dylan Gabriel, he's just struggling at Oregon.
Yeah, I know. Well, and the funny thing is now it seems like the tone is we're willing to let Michael Hawkins develop, and we're willing to ride it out with him. Well, why did we do that? What's going on?
What is the deal with Jackson Arnold?
I don't know. It's weird.
Is it the mustache?
Maybe.
The bandana or the hair thing? It just, you went from this is our future to, hey, dude, here's a dumpster. Let's throw you in it and move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
Because theoretically, let's play that scenario out here. What if you just gave up on Sellers after 3 games? Say, you know what? Dante Reno, he's our guy. We're going to put him in, and we're going to leverage our future on that. And he's still having the same struggles. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
None of this adds up. So either Jackson Arnold, there's something about Jackson Arnold we don't know, right?
You would think.
Or we're learning about Brent Venables. It's one of the two, right? And it could be both. I don't know, but there's something up there. It just makes no sense. And by the way, that juggernaut Houston's 2-5 or 2-4. So it's not like Houston, turned everything around and they're better than we thought. No, they're the rebuilding program we thought they were. All right, our Firehouse Sub text the hour is coming up at 803-404-6100. But first, let's have a quick conversation about my buddies and my pals over at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. 803-875-MENS. We talk about it all the time. We got to get past this stigma that we're guys and nothing's ever wrong with us and we're tough and we're all these things. You can still be tough. Just don't be stupid about your health. If you're just not feeling right, if you're not sleeping like you used to, you forget stuff you never used to forget stuff. You have a lack of life drive, personal drive, sex drive, professional drive, just life drive in general. You feel bleh. What's that dumb saying? You get up and go, got up and went. Or, your workout, you're not as strong. You don't feel as strong anymore. And you just don't bounce back from workouts well. You're just sore all over. It could just be low testosterone. One way to find out. Call 803-875-MENS. Set up a consultation at the Men's Clinic. Go in, tell them your story. If they think it could be low T, they'll do lab work. If it is, they'll put you on a program specifically designed for you. 803-875-MENS. Make the call to the Men's Clinic. Love Chevy High School football scoreboard show with, really, let's face it, it's Ed Bird's show, and Ed just shares it with Elijah and Justin Hall. 7 o'clock on Friday. We'll roll 7 to 11 here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia with our Love Chevy High School football scoreboard show. Time to check our Firehouse sub text the hour here in just a second. 803-404-6100. Jay Phillips is here hanging around.
Howdy.
Hey, you guys talked about the little Twitter poll from yesterday, correct? With
remind me which one it
after
was.
the Alabama win, do you feel better about going into Norman, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
We finished it up. Number one, the most votes got, win a close game, a hard-fought, tough game with the Sooners. You know what number 2 was?
Tell me.
Find a way to lose.
Well.
Are you surprised?
No, I guess.
Yeah, none of us are.
Disappointed? Surprised?
Are you really disappointed, though?
No, I don't know. No, I'm not.
Come on, you were born to Gamecock fan.
I've been around.
You know.
Somebody that heard conversations the last couple of days was like, do people realize how much experience you, Jay, have in this? Like relative to some of the, because I think some of the people that may argue with me on Twitter about it or just debate are probably significantly younger than me. And they don't want to.
You are kind of old.
They don't. Well, I am, but they don't want to hear me talk about. Sometimes those people like, hey, were you in the stands for 1982, Furman? Because I was.
We were just talking about that. Because we were saying how there's a portion of this fan base. And again, it's not a criticism. You earn these scabs over the years. All fan bases who go through this kind of stuff. There's reasons. I said Gunner and Preston were giving me a list of why the fan base. And we said Tyler and I were saying, like, for example, we'll pop on the air, Tyler and I. You should beat Akron like a drum. And someone's gonna say, no, dude. Remember Furman.
Yeah, Furman 82.
Don't be saying that they're going to beat Akron.
So if you had to compile like a quick top 3 list of most triggering losses in your lifetime as a fan, like what's going to be at the top of that list?
What makes you double over like you just got punched in the lower extremities to think about?
The late turnover here against Nebraska. You had Nebraska beat, late turnover, didn't win. Andrew Pennick's fumble in 0-2 against Georgia that you were gonna didn't win, and that was the same game as the David Pollock, what I like to call
Bill and Preston brought that game up.
His career highlight.
Yeah, the fumbleception is what I call it. Jeez, man. 84 Gator Bowl. Chris Wade dropped a touchdown. I mean, he wasn't in the end zone, but he was wide open, dropped the ball right in the breadbasket, and then Carolina lost that game inside the last minute to Oklahoma State. I was there for that. 20-16 loss to Miami, 87 down there when they won a national title, and Carolina gave them everything they could, man. That one hurt. You want me to keep doing this?
No, you're good.
Yeah, you're going to make Jay depressed before he does
I was going to say.
I don't know if I gave you more than...
You gave us 4.
I don't know if that was...
He gave us 32, didn't he, Tyler? We only asked for 3.
Hey, he just rattled them off for an hour.
Yeah, 1986 alone, tied Virginia Tech, tied Clemson, lost a crazy game. I've joked before, if you listen closely, you can still hear the booing after the 86 Georgia game where, I forget who Georgia's quarterback was. He fumbled the ball. Carolina scooped it up, got in the end zone. But back then, in college football, apparently you could not advance a fumble that was fumbled behind the line of scrimmage. And so Carolina recovered it, but the clock ran out. And so it was dead, and Carolina thought they had won, and then they didn't. And chaos ensued on the field for a minute. It was so. My point is, when I say some of the things I say, and that's not about you or anyone that hasn't grown up here or done,
right.
But for somebody who's sat in the stands at that ballpark, I'm doing quick math in my head, 300 and something times, and however many road games and bowl games I've been to, I believe me, the battle scars are everywhere.
I was going to say,
so
you're in
when
the club.
if every once in a while to somebody out there who wants me to feel the way they feel or something, I'm like, there may have been a time, but there are also times when I just be like, it's not like that's just the Gamecocks, but you chalk it up to, you better be careful with how much emotion you spend. You only have so much. And it's hard to refill the emotion bucket in life as you get older with whatever else is going on.
Sure.
So that's all. I mean,
what we all do, we're not sure when we say we all, but some of us, after a while you go, I love it. I'm into it. I'm passionate. I care. But you know what? It's at the end of the day, it's a game.
Yeah.
and I got to disengage from it and move on. Breaking your coffee table after the 1997 American League Championship Series is probably not the way to go.
Right.
With your TV out in the yard after a big loss is not the way to go.
I see people, I did do that kind of thing, and I'm like, it's not that I don't have a level of compassion or passion or whatever for the teams I pull for, but again, I've learned where to draw certain lines.
Look, and if you want to be passionate, however you want to be passionate, it's fine. But there is a level of where you go, you know what?
Yeah, or if somebody tells me you should feel that way too, Jay, and I'm like, I don't
feel the way I feel.
If you feel the way you feel, cool. But
I'll be honest with you.
Don't put that mojo on me.
Once I went through therapy and rehab and and things, I enjoy sports much better now than I did when I was nuts.
Me too.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. We'll do it again.
You got a post-game show coming up, right?
Yeah, it's coming up
All
right
right,
now.
man. Go do it. Tyler, good work, my friend. You ever say, hey, what do you got to lose, right? Let's say right now in your life you work in the manufacturing field and you're in a dead end in some way, shape, or form, whether it's pay, how you feel you're being treated, maybe you don't feel like you have enough time off, whatever it is. You can go join the winning team at American Italian Pasta Company. It's a Winland Foods company. They've been doing this for a long time, and they're hiring. Right now they want to add folks to their team, multi-craft maintenance techs, press operators, packaging operators. High school diploma, GED, 1 year manufacturing is required for all these positions. You just go to www.winlandsfoods.com/careers. You're saying, Tara, what are they offering? Well, competitive compensation, benefit package, quarterly bonus program, very employee-friendly time off program as well. Also paid parental leave and a 401k match. What do you got to lose? Go fill out an application. Check it out. Again, go to www.winlandfoods.com/careers. Be part of the American Italian Pasta Company team.